in a couple different studies, statistically, if 1 of 4 is a diversity candidate, that person, that diversity candidate has a 0% chance of actually getting the job. 0%, 1 in 4. At 50-50, you still have less than 50%, so it's about 46% to be the candidate, the placement. At 3/4, it's still less than 75%, it's 67%. So, I mean, if you let that statistically kind of soak in, that's kind of it's mind-boggling, right? So, you have to think about what's driving that. And I think there's a lot of ways to address that, but first step is awareness and understanding that there is an issue there. A lot of it, there is unconscious bias. We're wired like that. I mean, it's really kind of innate in our survival skills, and it's hardwired. And that's how we process large batches of information. If we kind of get into the PhD level of it, and maybe you can jump into more of that. But if we think about how we deduce information, I mean, we are biased, and that's how we kind of make fast decisions. But in a situation where you're trying to select the best candidate with and be diversity inclusive, you have to try to take the bias out of it. And 10 years ago, any orchestra setting was 95% male. And so what they started doing is auditions behind a screen. And also they made the men and women take their shoes off. So you could not tell when you walked on a stage whether it was a man or a woman that was coming out to audition. What is that driven? That is driven like a 47% increase in females basically taking those positions versus men. So, I mean, to me, that tells you that there's innately an issue, and it's not because, I don't think we're egregious in it, right? I don't think we are actively knowingly not selecting the female or diverse candidate, but inherently there is a bias that we have to start kind of getting at. On the other side, from a cultural perspective, again, I think it comes to inclusion. So we have to be thinking about it. How do we do it? How do we do it? How do we measure? Maybe it's less about how many women, but maybe it's more about how many people are on the slate. Do we have an equal mix? Are we looking at gender? Are we looking at diversity? All forms of diversity, and how do we make sure those ratios are intact from a filter perspective that gets you to the right answer? There's more to be done, and we have to be addressing it. And the other piece that I'll give is, women have to be put into positions where they're taking additive roles, growth roles, specifically with P&L. Because what we see is there's a lot of functional route up, so that, marketing, HR, et cetera, but what they're missing is the small scale P&L, which effectively will get you to the C-suite or the CEO role. And without that, you've effectively negated at least half the C-suite with not getting to a P&L, even if it's a small one. But you've got to get the dent somewhere, and someone's got to give you that opportunity.